We have breaking news here on the Lombardi Line. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Deshaun Watson, the verdict is in, Michael and Mr. Pritchard. The suspension is 11 games, up from 6 and fined $5 million as far as the settlement. A league source is reporting. It is being widely reported. Again, Deshaun Watson suspended for 11 games. We'll start with you, Michael Lombardi. It's nice to see you. Up from 6 games, and he gets the $5 million fine.
Well, obviously, they did not want to wait and see what Judge Harvey had to say. And, they put a deadline on this, so it came through. To me, as you play it forward, you have to wonder now, what do the Cleveland Browns do? Do they call Jimmy Garoppolo and make a trade? Because I think this, Mike, and I would like to know what you think. This whole notion, it's 11 games, he comes back in week 12, and all of a sudden he's Deshaun Watson again, to me is ridiculous thinking. Like, I think if he could come back in week 14 and play at a high level, that might be really good. So once I heard that it was 11 games, I think it makes Jimmy Garoppolo even more important for them to trade, because their season could be over if he comes back in week 13. It's going to take him some time, Mike, to get ready, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael and Patrick. Great to be with you guys. I mean, I would look at it as an injury situation if I'm Stefanski and the organization. And, Deshaun Watson has not played for an entire year. We saw him preseason. We can coach. We have some tape to kind of coach off of. But yet, in terms of the level that we're going to be playing at after that many games into the season, he's not going to be on that level. I can already anticipate that. So treat it like an injury situation. And I think Garoppolo could be an option, but I wonder if it's too late in the process. And then on the other side, as a player myself, I wouldn't want to be Garoppolo. I mean, I wouldn't want to be traded to a team that is just waiting for their quarterback to be ready that way. I mean, I would love to have a situation in which I could have an entire season, but that might not be available to Jimmy Garoppolo at this point.
Okay, we're going to set you up properly here. Mike Pritchard in for Michael Lombardi, but Michael Lombardi is married to the game, and nobody works harder than him. So he is checking in, I believe, from Arizona, where he's speaking to the football team in the program. Then he's going to head off to Las Vegas for some joint practices and hang out with the VSiN crew. But again, if you are just joining us, this is going to be huge news across the network all day right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Deshaun Watson, 11 games. That is up from 6, Michael and Mr. Pritch, and a $5 million fine. I'm just taking a look at week 1. Remember, Michael Lombardi, Cleveland open a 4.5-point favorite. Right now, Carolina, week 1 down there with the Baker Bowl, they have jumped to a 1-point favorite.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people believe that Matt Rule will name Baker Mayfield the starter after the game tomorrow night in New England. And so we will have the Baker Bowl down in Carolina. And, to me, I just keep going back to, yes, it's 11 games, but there's no practicing really in week 12 of the season. How do you get ready? How do you get yourself ready to go? I mean, the 11 to me is 14. It could be 13. And like Pritch said, you have to treat this like an injury. I agree with Pritch. You don't want to be Jimmy Garoppolo and come in, but say Jimmy comes in and week 2 he starts. I mean, he knows the terminology of the Stefanski system right now, so he could walk in there tomorrow and be ready for game 1. Week 1 of the season. But just say week 2 of the season he starts and they start winning some games, because that's usually what Garoppolo does. His teams win. He's won 33 games in his career. So, maybe you don't want to rush Deshaun back in there. To me, they're kind of betwixt and between here, but I would go after Garoppolo if I were them. Even the 11 game makes it, to me, you could be out of it in 11 games.
Take us inside the locker room, Pritch, as far as a teammate. You've got Brissett sitting there. You were hoping Deshaun, now potentially a Jimmy Garoppolo. Walk us through what's being discussed in that Cleveland locker room.
I tell you what, I mean, the finality of it all, I mean, I think you're happy about that. You're relieved about that. You finally have an answer here. But it's not settling, though. You're trying to get your work done. You're trying to lift up Brissett if you can. But yet what Michael Lombardi is talking about, the possibility of Jimmy G coming there too. I mean, that's something that everybody's kind of had their mind on as well. And so it's a distraction. I mean, there's no other way to sum it up. It's a distraction and there's no focus. But I guess the plus side of this for the Cleveland Browns right now is they don't have final cuts yet. A couple more weeks for that. They're not forged as a team yet. But the older guys, certainly the vets that are going to lead the way, it's unsettling at this point.
Distraction is a good word, Michael, that Pritch brought up
no
there.
doubt.
I mean, this has been looming over a team. The expectations are sky high there in Cleveland.
Yeah, but the problem too, Patrick, is as a team, and Mike can speak to this, is when you say, okay, when Deshaun comes back, everything's going to be okay. That's not going to happen. Like it's like, my first year in the league, we went to the Super Bowl, 15-1, and the next year, all we ever kept talking about, if we just get in the playoffs, we'll win. We just get in the playoffs, we'll win. Well, that didn't happen. So when Deshaun comes back, it'll be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. He's rusty. He's going to be rustier. He's not going to practice for 11 weeks. He's not going to be able to be involved with the offense and get the timing of the receivers. We hear Aaron Rodgers talking about his receivers and the timing that he's lacking. It's hard. Plus, it's a new team. It isn't like he's played with these guys before. So I think this is longer than 11 games. I know he'll still get his money for the season in terms of 5 games or 6 games, but I think this is the worst case scenario for the Browns because it's right there in the middle. They should go get a quarter. I don't think Brissett can hold the fort for 11 games is the end of the day for me.
Also, let's parse it out a little bit. Do we see Deshaun Watson this year, Michael and Pritch? Because what if he comes back to a team that's rolling? What if he comes back to a team that's clicking on offense, Pritch? This would be an awkward fit trying to force him back into the mix.
Yeah, it really would be, Patrick. And I mentioned the injury situation. I mean, there's players on the team that they know what your ability is. They've seen you practice with them. Obviously, you have that chemistry. And all they say to you as if they can, but Deshaun's not going to be in the building. Typically, an injury situation, we need you. When are you going to be back? How's it going? How's that rehab going, right? And so you're not going to have that. You're not going to be pining for that all year long because, the suspension is not going to allow for that. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be another distraction. I agree with you, Patrick. If the Cleveland Browns are rolling, the influence of Deshaun Watson, too, I really don't have a tab on that because I just haven't talked to enough people that has said or insinuated enough that he is a leader and that he's the alpha in that locker room. So there's so many layers to this, right? I don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to do. I would hate to be in this situation for them. I would hate to be a player on that team just weeks away from the beginning of the season this year.
Take Patrick, a look at the AFC. Yeah, please.
What is the? I know Vinny's been hiding them underneath his vest there. When did anything change on the win totals today with this announcement?
Well, the win total is that's a great question because I was just going to give you the division because the win total mostly everywhere is off the board, Michael, as you would suspect, and you just nailed it. Vinny's going to join us coming up in about 23 minutes from behind the book, so we'll take a look at how the bookmakers are going to handle the Browns right now in division. Remember, a month ago, Michael, we sat here. The Browns were your favorites in the AFC North. Now it's the Ravens plus 150. Michael wrote about Lamar Jackson over at VSiN.com, a great article. I encourage you to go check it out. The Bengals are plus 180, your second betting favorite, and Cleveland is plus 330. So that's where we stand. And again, if you are just joining us, breaking, NFL and NFLPA reached an agreement on 11-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. So the sources are all corroborating. The settlement also includes a fine of $5 million that will go to charity. Deal is still not signed, but is agreed to. So, again, we thought Michael 6 was light. It very much was light. It's up to 11 now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, and I think now we'll find out what the Browns' plans are. We know Stefanski announced that Brissett, no matter what happens, is going to be the starter week 1. Now, I think to me, it's what do they decide to do moving forward? And it's easy for me to say go get Garoppolo, but I think Pritch made a great point. What's that locker room going to be like? It's already a lot of distractions going on in that locker room with the Watson. The other thing, and Pritch talked about this as well, is who's leading this team? Where's their leadership? One thing with Baker, when they had Baker, he was their leader, right? Whether you liked him or not, he was your leader. Like, who's going to lead the team? I don't know if Brissett can lead if he doesn't play at a high level. So, where's their leadership coming from? Where are they going to get the inertia from to kind of unify the team together? Is it Myles Garrett in the defense? Are they going to have to carry him? Is it Nick Chubb in the run game? Look, they got a good team. They have a good team. I would hate to see them waste 11 games and get out of the race. And all of a sudden, I'm sure if you're the Houston Texans, you're hoping like hell they don't sign anybody and they end up with a bad pick and you get a high draft pick from them.
And just to follow up on your leadership point, and great point by you, Pritch, It's almost like this inauthentic where Watson comes in. He's got the guaranteed money. Quarterback generally is going to be the leader of the team, but nobody was buying into it because this was looming the whole entire time. Just an awkward vibe. It has to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then you throw in the center situation. No J.C. Treader, Nick Harris gets hurt. Their backup center, the rookie, gets hurt too. So they have offensive line issues on top of the Deshaun Watson distraction too. So there's so many layers. Like I mentioned, guys, Amari Cooper coming there, and that's your number one playmaker on the outside. And where's his chemistry? You know, is it going to be with Brissett? Is it going to be with Rosen? Is it going to be with Garoppolo? I mean, that is unsettling. And as a bettor, I would take a back seat here. I think we do have a win total. I think Matt.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do have a win total here.
Yep, and great job, Matt Santos. So, Michael, I got your answer. Over at BetMGM, sponsor of this show here, the Lombardi Line, the Browns are 8.5. You got to pay $1.45 to go under, so it's juiced up to the under on 8.5. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the interesting question is if they sign Baker, what would BetMGM adjust that number
That's
to?
a great question.
And I think if I'm the Browns and you could call somebody at BetMGM and see what they would do with that number, that should lead you to the answer whether you should make a trade for him or not, don't you think?
Like you said, I think the awkwardness comes in when all of a sudden week 9, week 10, and we get closer to his impending return. And then what? What if the team is rolling? That could be super awkward.
You know, the thing we talked all about before we knew what the suspension was how easy the schedule was for the Browns. And I think this might motivate their decision. Like, they start with the Panthers, who I feel like they can win that game. They get the Jets. I think that'll be Joe Flacco without a doubt. I said this on the show, you know, with the meniscus injury to Zach Wilson. He's not coming back. They're not going to rush him back. They get the Steelers, which will always be a hard game no matter who plays. Falcons, Chargers. I mean, there's a sense that we thought the first 6 games they had a chance to really get going. And they might say, hey, with Brissett in those first 6 games, what's the sense of trading for Garoppolo? So I kind of, that's the way we were thinking if it was going to be 6 games. And I got to think that the Browns, the reason they signed Brissett is they got to believe he can carry it all the way through the 11 games. Me, I wouldn't, but I think that's what they're thinking.
I think you nailed it. And Pritch, I think to your point, which you brought up, which was very astute going inside the locker room, it's almost like, do you really want to go through the process of indoctrinating Garoppolo if Stefanski has enough confidence in Brissett and they can hang on? Do you really want to add that other element to the mix there in Cleveland with Garoppolo?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dynamic, you always have to have a conscience on that. I mean, I remember when Chris Miller, my rookie year, got hurt. He got injured in 91 with the Falcons, and we actually traded for Billy Joe Tolliver in the season, right? During training camp and training camp into the season, even though they drafted Brett Favre. I mean, think about that for a minute, right? And it worked out because
Jerry Glanville, the great Jerry Glanville. He wasn't going to put Favre on the field no matter what.
He wasn't. Yeah, it was crazy to think about. Now, we still was a wild card team, but that was the point. I guess the decision was the fact that, okay, we were a good team, well, at least the makings of a good team, and perhaps we could do something significant that year. I think Cleveland is indicating that within, like, you trade Baker Mayfield to your week 1 opponent, which is interesting, right? But then, okay, the Deshaun Watson suspension was looming. You knew that. But there was no, I guess, definitive move towards Garoppolo. Maybe there will be. Who knows? But it's like within the building, it seems like Cleveland Browns are kind of confident with the beginning of the year without Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, you mentioned the Baker Bowl. So, Michael, you talked about it a little bit. I know you don't have inside information, but we are hearing that it looks like Baker Mayfield, after tomorrow's game with, of course, we open up week 2 tonight in Seattle as far as the preseason. But you've got the joint practices going on in New England right now with Carolina, and then you've got tomorrow night the game. You are hearing that Baker is going to be announced a starter after that.
Well, Jeff Howe at The Athletic said he reported that that's what his sources are telling him. I haven't asked my sources on the ground in Carolina because I don't want to ask my sources. But the sense that I get is that it's pretty clear. You know, they brought Baker in. Baker's done everything they want him to do. He's learned what to do. Now, these practices up in New England haven't gone as smooth as I think either side wants because of all the fighting that's been going on. But when you watch pro tape on Baker and watch pro tape on Sam, I think you feel like you have a better opportunity to win the game with Baker than you do with Sam. So I think Baker is going to, by the tapestry of his work, is going to win this job. And I think that will be the starting. Now, they put the rookie in at left tackle. They moved Brady Christensen in at left guard. I think this is a real improved team. I really do. And I think this will be a hard game for the Browns. Going back to them, though, Patrick, is I do think the Browns think, as Mike said about his Falcon team, I think the Browns think they're a good team. They think they can run the ball on anybody. They got 3 really good running backs. And as long as Brissett doesn't hurt them, they should be able to handle it with their defense, which has improved from last year. So, I think go over 9 would be a stretch for me, because I think once the season gets going and you declare who you are, you become easier to defend. But early in the season, they could be a problem.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.